time to celebrate. Planting season has officially started. Because of the drought, though, a lot of people are considering downsizing their vegetable gardens. Container planting is an easy way to conserve more water while still getting a bountiful harvest, according to Sheriden Hansen. She's here to share how to grow vegetables in containers, which I'm intrigued, not just because of water restrictions this year. I've always wanted to try my hand at this.
Yeah, you definitely can do it. It's fun. It's a different way to, have that take on vegetable gardening, like if you have a small yard or you don't want the commitment of the huge garden. This is the way to try and just get a little bit of vegetable, a little fruit in your life without all of that commitment. So
the first step, no surprise, picking the right container.
Right, and this is really, really important. We've got to have the right container. So what we look for is the appropriate size. So thinking about what the plant is going to look like grown up is sometimes hard for us to think about. I'm going to plant a tomato in a really ridiculously large pot at the end here, and you'll see it kind of looks funny. But we also have to make sure that we have a container that has a drainage hole. So this one does not have one, and I see these sold in nurseries a lot. People will call me and ask what's going on.
Well, they're pretty. We get sucked in. We want the cool pot.
Yeah, we do. We want the really pretty pot, but we've got to make sure it has a good drainage hole. So that's the number one thing I look for, is that drainage hole, an appropriate size, and then you can really have fun with it. Like we were saying, how cute this container is.
Darling.
You can really fluff it up and get colors and patterns, all of that fun stuff into your garden.
But with size, it's about projecting the size. Where will this go?
Yes.
Okay.
You got to think about grown-up plants.
Next step, choose the right location.
Yes, so we want to be in a full sun location. So most of our vegetable crops need 6 to 8 hours of full sun. So even if it is a container, make sure you're locating it in a place on a balcony, on a patio, wherever you're placing it, where it will get that sun so it can produce. So really important step.
What plants do well, Sheriden, in a container?
Almost anything can grow in a container.
Really?
It really can, but there are some things that lend themselves better than others. So, of course, I've got strawberries growing here. I've grown cucumbers in containers for years. They do amazing, which you wouldn't think of. Herbs are wonderful. Peppers, eggplants, lettuces, greens, anything that creates a salad does well. You can even do some of the root crops like beets, radishes, all of that kind of stuff does great in this.
I had a neighbor do a salad container. Yeah. And she just walked out on our patio and made a little salad. I think that's so dreamy and so sweet.
It is.
To think about, a kind of a sweet notion. All right, soil, we have probably more control than we would out in the wild.
Absolutely. So we're going to pick a soil that's lightweight. So you can see I've got in this soil here how light and easy it is to dig through and crumble. So we want it to have some vermiculite, which is the white stuff that you see here, perlite also, and that it's like nice and loamy, easy for a plant to grow through.
All right, and then any other additives
Yeah, so a lot of these plants, planting mixes don't come with fertilizer, so we're probably going to have to add some fertilizer. So you can do that a couple of different ways. You can do a slow release, you can do, just a granular, or you can do this liquid type fertilizer as well. So, and we water these a lot more often than we would water a regular in-ground planting.
Like how often?
So you're going to be watering pretty much every day.
Yeah.
So sometimes twice a day. So we'll wash the nutrients out a lot faster in these container plantings. So it's important that we stay on top of the fertility. So if our plant isn't growing, then we're going to reach for that fertilizer.
How often then?
So if you're doing, it kind of depends on the fertilizer.
That's a big question.
It is, but if it's like a liquid fertilizer, you're going to fertilize maybe once a week, once every other week. Or if it's more of a granular slow release, the slow release you could do like once every 2 months. Granular maybe once a month.
But that depends more on the fertilizer, not the plant or the vegetable?
Yeah, fertilizer, definitely the fertilizer type. And then, if your plant is setting fruit, it's going to need a little bit more nutrition. So
will you show us?
I will definitely show you.
This might be the year, Sheriden, where I do it.
And I've been waiting for this.
With your encouragement, here we go.
So I've got this gorgeous little tomato that I've grown. You can see is pretty big. We're actually going to break off some of these leaves at the bottom because I'm going to plant in deep. And when I plant deep, what's going to happen, I'm going to get roots that go all the way along the stem that will develop. So I'm going to put him clear down in there. He wasn't very root bound, so I'm not going to worry about roughing up the roots too much. But
Explain
you can see
root bound.
So root bound means like that the roots are wrapping around. So we've got a lot of root mass, but this one looked really good. So I'm just going to barely press. I'm not going to press it really hard, but you can see this is little plant in this big pot.
It's a huge pot.
But think about how big this tomato is going to get. It will get huge.
Do they grow to the container, or do they just grow to their...
They'll grow to the size that they're genetically predispositioned to grow to, as long as they have all the nutrients, the water, everything that they need.
It'll keep going despite the plants, the pot size.
Yeah, absolutely. I can put a cage over this if I want to, or I can let it ramble over and just kind of flow, however I want to run this tomato.
And it will be as productive as a regular plant in a regular garden?
Very productive, yes. Yes, yes. And if you don't want to do a pot this size and you don't want to commit to a tomato that size, there are patio varieties that you can find. There's one named Patio Princess or Stupus, and they're a little bit smaller and still very productive.
Now, you did give me the politician answer that any plants will work, but is there any that are particularly tricky that you might not want to try on your first rodeo?
You know, so there are some that can be a little more difficult. Potatoes kind of have a temperature requirement. You can grow potatoes, but you may have to pay a little bit more attention to the temperature of the soil, and just kind of, make sure that you're placing it in a spot where it gets a little bit of afternoon shade and cools off just a bit.
Okay, but strawberries, tomatoes,
all of those things. You can even do carrots as long as you don't disturb the roots once you plant. So yeah.
All right. There's just an excitement, I think, to being able to do this despite the size of your yard, or in this case, despite the water you're able to provide this year. This makes it doable for almost everyone.
And I think you can do this, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to hear if you did it.
Oh no! Now I'm committed in front of my friend and in front of all of you. All right, you have classes if I need more help, right?
Yes, we have lots of classes. So you can come and you can take one of our classes. I have a class on container gardening if you want to take an in-depth dive. We have a code for you that you can get $10 off on that class, and we'll have a link and everything for you. So
great.
You can definitely find our online classes at extension.usu.edu.
Okay, we'll post the code on the Studio 5 website.
Yes.
And link you over. You can take a class and learn how to do this like the pros. The pros will teach you and you'll become one too. Now I'm feeling pressure, but I really do want to take it on, so I might just succumb to the pressure. And you've laid it out really well, Sheriden. Thank you so much.